where I'm at now is truly helping people believe in themselves, because you cannot go beyond your belief of yourself and what you can accomplish. If all of the areas where God took me, I believed in him and I believed his word, but I also had to believe that I had the ability. And I realized that so many people, they hold themselves back because they don't believe that they have it. They don't believe they have the ability, but it's like you don't know what's in you until you start walking in that direction.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode on the Rare One podcast. I'm Adelaide.
And I'm Essence. What's up, y'all?
Today I'm super excited to be I've heard your story, but I want to hear it like I'm hearing it for the first time, because I believe that, yes, all day, because I believe that there's somebody out there that they just need a little encouragement. Mm-hmm. And your story has specific things that can absolutely speak to that encouragement. So we're going to get into it. I want to know from the beginning to the end, and start with like, what even made you fall in love with hair to begin with? Like, it's not something that everybody always wakes up and be like, yeah, I just want to do hair. So what made you fall in love with it?
You know, I think that I was, as a child, getting my hair done with my sister, and we would go to somebody's house and we would sit for hours. Mm-hmm. And I think just from sitting for hours, I would observe this stylist doing my sister's hair, and somehow or another, like, it just naturally just activated in me. And so what I would end up doing is, after we would get our hair done, then I would go home and I would play around with dolls, but not even understanding that that's what's taking place. Yeah. Well, later on, I can't really remember where in my journey this was, but I had my mom's friend ask me to do her child's hair, and he was mixed race. And so it was a challenge for me, but it also like birthed in me this determination to like really get good. And then she paid me for it. So at that point, this is like the first time I ever exchanged, you know, money for styling hair. And I just realized, like, oh, not only do I love this and it's creative, but I also can get money for this. And I think that that's where it really just kind of took off for me. And so my younger brother wanted his hair braided, because crisscross, you know, make you want to jump. They had came out, they had braids on top of their hair. So, you know, obviously culture kind of predicts, like, you know, how people move. And so he wanted his hair braided. And he was like my first, I always call him my guinea pig. You know, he was my canvas. Like I used him to get better with my craft. And he was my younger brother, so he didn't really have a, not to say he didn't have a standard, but, you know,
he didn't care as much.
He was happy. He's just like, I got braids. I don't even know the quality of them, but I love them, you know? So I think that's what really started it. And then it just evolved into me doing my high school friends' hair. Yeah. And, you know, again, my mom, she allowed me to, first I started on the side of the house, and remember, it's Arizona. So Arizona in the summertime, it is blazing. And so there came a point in time where I was like, Mommy, can I please, you know, come in the house somehow or another? And so we have a very large laundry room. And so my mom allowed me to turn in the laundry room into a like this was a salon suite before a salon suite, right? And so I had the washer and dryer behind me. That was like my station. It had all my products on there. And then I had like a little stand in front of me with all of my, you know, my music. Cause I literally had a whole vibe up in there, you know? And
I don't believe anything less. Okay. I know you did.
So my mom, she went and she was riding past a garage sale and seen some chairs, and she thought of me. It's like, oh, China could have some chairs, because it was not one person at a time. Like I would have dudes come deep, like 3-4 deep, and they all want their hair braided, and they would just come and chill. So I had a waiting area, and it was just a whole, like, it was a kick it spot.
I love it.
And so that's pretty much like the start of my story. And then I graduated high school, and I was really tired of living in Arizona, and I just felt the need that I wanted to leave Phoenix. And so I told all my clientele, like, yeah, I'm leaving. You know, I think I was 20 at the time. And I had stacked a certain amount of money, and I packed up my bags, and I moved to Maryland.
Oh my goodness. And I remember us visiting that barbershop. Was that the first barbershop that you worked at? Like the first place you worked at when you went there?
Yes.
when we
Yeah.
went
So
out
that
there?
was when I went out there, I honestly didn't think that I was going to continue doing hair. I always seen it as like a
Okay.
backdrop of, okay, worst come to worst, I can get some money. But when I moved to Maryland, it was me thinking about, okay, I'm going to start my life. You know, I'm going to continue college and see where this goes. But what happened was, nothing really was like materializing, you know? And so I was going to school, and then I ended up dating this guy, and he introduced me to this barbershop. And so from there, I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and use my gift and get this money. And so that's what ended up happening. I just started working at that barbershop.
Okay, so can you kind of explain a little bit? You're 20 years old making this decision to choose hair versus choose what your mom expected you to do, to become a nurse like her. What was that like? Did you have a grappling? Was there a what did you even have to have a hard conversation?
Well, that actually was later in my story. That was when I moved back to Phoenix.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
skipping
you're
stuff.
good. You're good. So to kind of speed up, like Maryland. So I worked in Maryland at a barbershop and a salon, and so I was splitting my time because the barbershop was just, you know how barbershops are. I was like, okay, you know, I think I need to get in a different environment, get a different type of clientele, and so, but I had an encounter with God, and so grew up in the church all of my life, you know, knew of God, but never had a relationship, never really heard his voice. And so I had this encounter where we have to talk about this in another episode because, you know, that could take us down another street. But from that point that I had the encounter, I really was wide open. I'm like, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Now, mind you, things are going well for me in Maryland. I have clientele, money is popping. I just bought my first car cash. You know, things are going good. But now that I'm developing this relationship, I'm starting to hear directions, like literal directions. And so, you know, I kept hearing go back to Arizona in different ways. Like, I mean, whether it was a dream or I see a license plate and I'm just like, why do I keep seeing Arizona?
Yeah.
And I knew.
Yeah.
I knew he was saying go back. And I'm just like, no, I know I said I'll do anything, but this is the last thing that I really want to do because it's Arizona. You know what I'm saying?
It's not as glamorous as being on the East Coast.
At the time.
Right,
now
right.
I love Arizona.
Right.
Please, I ain't going nowhere. But at the time, it was just like, I didn't see a future, especially with me building the clientele. And I had the ability to work in a barbershop and a salon. Whereas in Arizona, I knew the laws were different. Right. And so I'm fighting it because I don't understand it. It seemed very counterintuitive. It's like, there's no life for me out there. Yes, my family's there, but then what? And so after I heard it for so long, I just realized like I would be stupid not to follow it.
Yeah.
So I packed up my car, drove cross country, right? We talking 36 plus hours from Maryland back to Phoenix.
Is that like 3,000 miles or something?
Yeah.
That's a long way. Okay.
I moved back in with my mom. And at this time is when my mom was like, well, you know, what are you going to do with your life? You know, I'm 23 at the time. What are you going to do with your life? And, you know, she's an RN, so she seen that as a great path to follow. And so she's like really in my ear about going this direction, whereas God only gave me one direction at first, and it was move back.
Oh, that's good.
That's all I got. I didn't know what was going to be out there. So now I'm back in my mom's house, and she's telling me, you can't be doing here in the house like you were before. Like, I don't want that traffic. And I was just like, okay. So now I'm going back to God and saying like, okay, so now what?
Why you call me back?
Like, to have a miserable life, you know what I mean? In that I can't do hair, I can't flourish. And so, you know, I definitely went through like some sort of
like a wrestling.
And a season of just like feeling like down. But it's so funny. So I always negotiate with God. I'm like, okay, if it don't pop off in a year, I am back in Maryland. Because my clientele was like, listen, whenever you come back, let me know.
Yeah, it was ready.
And so I moved back in August, and I felt the need to call the State Board of Cosmetology. And I just told them, I'm like, hey, I do hair professionally. You know, I've been doing it for X amount of years. And I want to know what it takes to be legal in the state of Arizona, because I knew that though my mom didn't necessarily see it and I'm already enrolling in nursing school, I still feel like there's something stirring in me to tell me to go this direction. So I'm like listening to my mom at the same time doing this path, or at least calling to inquire.
I think that a lot of times people who are that young, where the people who love them in their life, they're asking real questions because they want to protect them from, things that maybe in their generation didn't look secure. This is a field that to some people, especially sometimes our family even, that doesn't look as secure. They don't see it as a career more than they see it as a hobby. Mm-hmm. And so it's really like getting an understanding of like, okay, where did the courage to actually take this seriously? And where did you feel like your mom got more on board? Because when you call the State Board of Cosmetology, that seems like a serious step. Do you think she took you more seriously after? No?
I think my mother took me seriously.
Miss Mary.
Like later on. It was like she had to see the proof. And I understand.
Yeah.
I think that it's like no different than, certain stories in the Bible where they had extreme faith and they had to do something that nobody could see and they could not see it until the fruit started to come. And so I called the State Board of Cosmetology. And they pretty much told me in order to do hair in the state of Arizona, any type of hair, you have to have a license. Now, mind you, I'm led by God to call the state board. Yeah. So this is like, okay, move back to Arizona, call the state board. So I get off the phone, I'm like, okay, I called them now. Like, now what? He told me to look for a law firm.
Wow.
I'm 23. I know that is a divine inspired idea. I would have never.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting these instructions. And so I call the state board. And so while I hear my mom, I'm hearing instructions. And so I have to follow him. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so I'm doing both. Like I'm appeasing and I'm also, pleasing really God with my faith. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I start, AOL and looking up law firms, and probably the second or third law firm, I can't remember, that I contacted the Institute for Justice. Mm-hmm. Now, the crazy thing about this is that they had just opened a branch in Arizona. Now, this is a nationwide law firm that fights on the behalf of economic liberties, essentially where the government tries to come in and stifle your ability to make an honest living. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not understanding all of the background of this when I talk to them. So the guy was just like, I would love to come and meet with you. He comes and meets with me and my mom's in our living room. Wow. And we have a conversation. And within months, I don't remember exactly the timeline, but I moved back in August. By December 3rd, we filed Essence Pharma versus the State Board of Cosmetology.
Wow. Oh, at 23?
At 23.
Oh. Did that feel like a lot of weight though at the time, or was it just like I'm just moving?
Yeah, I just was moving because I'm like, I clearly don't understand God's plan. Yeah. But the fact that I'm fighting a law and I don't even understand what's going on, and all I'm really trying to do is braid hair. Yeah. But it just was like, okay, it's almost like a conveyor belt. I'm just on a conveyor belt. I'm just following instructions, and I just trust that it's going to take me somewhere. So, I say all that to say that it was a journey of my mom seeing this. And so I filed in December. I moved out of my mom's house in January, and I got my own apartment. Mm-hmm. So I was only not doing hair for about 4 months. But as soon as I got my apartment, I got a 1-bedroom and a den. And then I just turned that den.
Was a suite.
My den was a suite. And this is when I really was like all out. I went and I ordered me a salon chair. And my den was literally set up like a salon, photo books, everything. And so I'm starting to see some of this dream literally come alive. I think it took a while. I think after the law got passed, then my mom was like starting to see it. Like, yes, she's seen her daughter on the cover of the business section in the Arizona Republic. Yes, she's seen where a news crew flew from DC to interview me about my case in my apartment to ask me like, what's going on? And so I think she's seeing all this, but it's still not necessarily connecting. Mm-hmm. But I think at some point, because now I'm no longer in her house and I'm also in nursing school, that she just was like, okay, well, at least she's doing something for herself,
Yeah, that's really good. So from the time that you filed to the time that the law actually got passed, what was the time difference?
Well, that's a funny thing. So mind you, I told God if it don't pop off in a year, I'm out, right?
That's why I asked, because I'm like, you see how fast he worked?
So April, months after the law was filed, was the month that Janet Napolitano, who was the governor at the time of Arizona, heard about it. It came across her board somehow or another. And she thought it was crazy. She was like, hold up. So she has to go and get a license to do natural hair when she doesn't cut, color, do chemicals. She just wants to braid hair. And she has to now go to school that doesn't teach any of that, enhance any of that, test on any of her proficiency in doing it, to now get a license to say now we can regulate her.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, that was the reason why I fought, because I just didn't think that it was fair. I thought that, you know, it makes sense if there's a specialized license or, you know, something that was specific to what I did. I understand that there's sanitation. I understand all these things. And so she essentially signed off in April that exempted all braiders, all estheticians, all natural hairstylists in the state of Arizona from having to obtain a cosmetology license. However, when laws are written in, it takes a while for them to take effect.
Yeah.
And so though it happened in April, the fulfillment of the law actually being like alive, essentially, was August, which was a fulfillment of a year. So God was like, oh, okay, you gonna go back in a year? Well, now you done change the law. Well, now what?
So no, you're not going anywhere. Oh my gosh. Okay, so so from the law being passed, were you the first natural hair salon that opened as a result of the law?
No, I was not.
How did that make you feel? Because
okay, so let's talk about it.
that could be a shot.
So, mind you, I finished nursing school, and I was hiding behind nursing school because though the law got passed, and I was the one who initiated this law, I was still afraid. And so I kind of used it as almost, I hate to say it, but like a barrier. It was like, oh, well, I can't do it because the law's not, or I can't, or an excuse, or I can't do it because now I'm in nursing school. So now it's almost like the walls of Jericho. It's like when the walls come down and there's no more barriers, are you going to take siege of the city? Are you going to enter into the promised land? And so, no, I didn't immediately step out. And so the great thing was that my lawyer had got me incorporated. So I incorporated Rare Essence in 2004 while the case was going on.
Wow.
But the salon didn't eventually open until years later. And so so I graduated nursing school. I'm working as a nurse. I'm working at a lockdown facility for youth. And one day I just was there and I just like, this isn't it. Like I just so didn't feel aligned. And I'm rushing to get back to do my clients' hair because I'm still like doing hair and, you know, going to school, you know, or working as a nurse. And I kept having clients ask me, when are you going to open a salon? When are you going to open a salon? And I was like, it's crazy how when it's your next is upon you, God will start having people like pass and cross your path that will start to bring that dream, you know, alive. So and so, so it was definitely a journey. So I did it. I wasn't the first person to open. What ended up happening was after I graduated, I got my job as a nurse. I'm driving down the street one day near my apartment now. I'm right here out of my apartment. I'm near my apartment and I see a braid salon open. And I just was like, oh, hell no.
If that don't give you no courage.
If it wasn't no fire up under my butt. Because I'm like, okay, here it is. I have got this law passed. I have clientele. I'm great at what I do. And now people are moving out based on the law that I have initiated. However, I'm still braiding hair out of my apartment. So I'm driving past a braid salon, braiding in my apartment. And had it not been for me, they wouldn't even be able to be open, you know, humbly.
Yeah.
And so that's when I just was like, what's going on? So I talked to my father. And I was just like, Daddy, what? Like, you know, and I was kind of complaining. And I think sometimes we don't understand, like, leaders are not meant necessarily to complain. Like, you got to move.
Yeah.
You don't talk about the problem. You solve the problem. And so it's like, okay. And my father just told me the most practical thing. He's like, well, just go look for a building. And I was like,
that's simple.
Oh, he's like, stop the excuses. You're no longer in school. The law has been passed. Your next step is to go look for a building.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, it literally was like an epiphanal moment where all of the clouds just moved out the way and it was clarity. And I was like, oh, I have to take the next step. And so that's what I did. I just started looking for a building.
And what year was this?
This was the end of 2005. So the law got passed in 2004. So this was about a year a year later. I think I started looking at the end of '05.
So then the salon opens in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what did that mean to you? Did it feel like what God told you was being fulfilled? Like, did you feel peace doing this? Did you feel afraid? Mm-hmm. Like, you had mad clientele. So did they all come?
Yeah, I mean, they all transitioned over, but there was still a great deal of fear. Like, it's one thing to do hair out of your apartment or out of your home. It's another thing to have a storefront.
Why?
At least for me. I can't speak for everybody else. It made it so real.
Yeah.
And I was concerned about failing. Like, I knew that I would be cool at home, but it's another thing to say, okay, I'm actually in business, and it was just me.
Yeah.
So I didn't know all of what it could be or whatever it will be. I just knew that, okay, I have clientele and it's just me, but to open a business, now mind you, this is before salon suites.
Yeah.
It's like there is no such thing as a salon suite in 05, right. You know what I mean? 06. So I just had to bet on me. And, I definitely did it cautiously, I stacked all of my money because at that time, my father always warned me against being in debt.
Yeah.
And he always told me if I can't pay cash for it, I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. So I had this mentality about debt that even when I went to college, like I felt bad for taking a loan out to go to college because I was like, I don't want to be in debt, even if it's for my education. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, when it was time for me to open a salon, all my mind was thinking about is just stacking my money and investing because I so believed in what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I so believed that I'm not going to give up on me. I've already walked away from a nursing job and I can always fall back on that.
Yeah.
I will have my license, and if I need to renew it, I can go back and do it, but I have to try. Like I can't not know where this path was. And to even think, would God use me just to change a law, but not to go forward in business? Yeah. Like he wouldn't just use me just to change it. And so being young and still not necessarily understanding or seeing that, I just had to continue to take the steps, and I started to go with my peace. Mm-hmm. And so there was no looking back. It was just like, okay, if the next step is to look for a building, I'll look for a building. If the next step is to sign a lease, I'm scared, but I'll sign a 1-year lease.
Yeah. I did not know that. It was only a 1 year.
I signed a 1-year lease. I was like, listen, I'm not locking myself up in no business or no building.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what if I can't pay my rent? Yeah. What if?
Yeah.
So it's so funny because my whole commitment is just like, let me just do 1 year. 1 year in Arizona.
It is.
1 year for this lease. Meanwhile, it's been almost past 20 years,
That's
but
crazy.
So I signed a 1-year lease, and I also moved back home with my mom because now the only reason why, not the only reason, but I had my apartment so I could braid hair.
Yeah.
But now that I have a business, I can go back home. And so I kind of rationalized it with my rent for my apartment at the time was equivalent to the rent for this lease. Mm-hmm. And so I know I can pay my rent because I've been paying it. Yeah. And so I felt like even though it was a risk, because I spent almost all my savings to buy equipment to get this place together, I would be good because I'm already used to paying, this amount of money. And so, I signed it, but I signed it still, shaking in my boots.
Could you speak really quick to, there's a lot of people who they get in business and they think, oh, I got to look like I'm a business owner. Or I got to live like I'm a business owner. Like you just said something that most people would not do because they're not humble enough to like see the bigger picture. They want it to look like something. I want to get a brand new car. I want to get a brand new this and that. And could you speak to that? Like, did that, and that's something that you taught me for sure. Like, I don't have to look like no role. I just need to do the role and be in the role. But I'm sure if I would have looked to somebody else that was like, I have to look like whatever this is to be able to feel like I don't know, I want to be there, deserve to be there, or if other people will validate me for that role.
Attention all natural hairstylists. Are you ready to perfect your techniques and create flawless styles? Our online courses are here to help you with creativity, speed, and precision. We offer specialized courses in braiding, locking, and twisting. available to you 24/7 so you can learn at your own pace, anywhere, anytime. You'll be guided by industry leaders with over 30 years of experience, and we'll break down every detail, providing start to finish instructions so there'll be no guesswork. Gain the skills to become a confident and successful stylist and start earning what you deserve. Enroll today at rareessenceacademy.com and transform your styling skills.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I ever really took pride in how people view me. Shoot, I changed the law. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care if I'm driving a Benz or if I'm driving a, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing. You know, because there was a point in time where I caught the bus to the salon.
Wow.
Because I had gotten a car accident and whatever. And so for me, I wasn't concerned about the optics. And I understood that there is no success without sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if I'm so concerned about how it looks, I may not have anything to look at.
Come on. That's a whole daggone word.
So for me, I didn't care. I don't think that I ever, really were like tried to live up to what other people thought I should be, but I think I was already bred that way. I didn't buy my first car until I was 21. Whereas, I mean, I could have probably went and got a lease and, been driving a car because other people were doing it. But I was just like, that doesn't make sense. I paid $3,000 cash for my first car, and I was riding it. And it was 6 or 7 years old when I bought it. I didn't care.
Yeah.
So I got past that,
Yeah. And that takes a lot of not worrying about the noise. And it's hard to do. I think it's harder maybe to do in this day and age because people think of everything is about instant gratification and social media and all of that. And speaking of social media, you also came into this position without social media. Mm-hmm. There are people who don't even know what marketing means without social media. So what was a way as a business that like you grew Rare Essence to an astronomical level? Everybody knows, most people, whether they moved here or from here or whatever, most people know Rare Essence. How did you market yourself? Like even in the beginning.
Well, I mean, this may not sound like marketing, but for me, it was about the craft. Yeah. And I think that the craft speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You don't have to run around and pass out cards. Like people used to be like, you're an urban legend. Like I hear about your name, but I've never seen you because I used to be in the cut. I really didn't go a lot of places. And so my work spoke and it spoke volumes. And I think that word of mouth is better than really and truly any social media because like, you can have a large page, but if you have a bad reputation or if, those things
real people will really talk.
Yeah. So for me, it was about the work.
Yeah.
It was about the work. And I was like, if I don't have clients, maybe because my work is not as good as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people, they focus on the outcome as opposed to the input. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Mm. Like if you input the right things are going to come out of it.
It's going to naturally come out.
Yeah.
So you opened the salon in 2006. It was you by yourself. Did you feel a push to like, okay, now it's time to grow a little bit. Now I'm noticing I need more people because you built a thriving salon. I remember when I came, it was just us. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of doors around the corner when you went into the bigger space. I mean, it literally was like a dream that most salon owners, I guess, would have. It was packed.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between like, I could do this by myself, but now I know I need people. And what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always wanted people, but I didn't necessarily have a model to follow. So to give you some background, the other part of my story, my drive, I cannot, not include my father.
Yeah.
My father was, when I say literally my hype man.
He's sure. Oh, Lord have mercy.
My hype
He sure
man.
was. Okay.
Rest in peace to both of my parents.
Mr. Farber. Oh, yes.
But my father, whereas my mom was the more practical, the more, safe, go this route, and she didn't see the entrepreneurship. Yeah. My father was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
He was just like, you should have 10 salons by now. you know?
He sure was.
So when I opened the salon, I always knew that it was not just for me. I knew that it was opening a door for other people. The climate in Arizona at the time was not on natural hair. Like, you barely would see people with locks in the early 2000s. I mean, it was rare, you know? And so as I continue to do hair, I'm attracting not just clients, but also potential stylists, because they see like there's just a level of excellence and just a level of even branding, you know, that they were attracted to. And I think I never looked for people.
Yeah.
I never did. And not to say that that's not a strategy that people should use, but they gravitated because I think that they seen there was just this buzz. Yeah. And so from that, I started to bring on stylists, and it was definitely challenging. But I had to mature. I had to mature in understanding, like, what does it mean to own, and what does it mean to employ people, and, you know, all of those things. But yeah, I got to a place where, you know, that Glendale location was popping. It was like a oasis in the desert, you know?
Oh my goodness.
But I was saying that to say that there weren't a lot of people wearing their hair natural. And so even though there's this natural hair revolution going on nationwide, it was barely hitting Arizona. It was almost like God used me to really like open up the floodgates for it.
And they were definitely open. I mean, if anybody who is anybody, literally, not only did they hear of Rare Essence, they wanted to experience it. Like, you created a legitimate, like what felt like a real Black experience in Arizona. I'm originally from Chicago, so I've seen this, not to the standard of excellence that I've seen it with you, but, you know, and you've seen it too in other states. Like, you go and it's a vibe. It's like you feel safe, you feel heard. It feels like family. Was that something that you were even intentional about, or was it just this was just flowing too?
It flowed. I like good music.
Yeah,
I like a great experience, and it's funny because people would always come to the salon. They were like, I feel like when I come here, I'm not in Arizona. Like, I don't even know what it is. As soon as I walk in these doors, like, I just feel like there's something else. And, you know, I have to credit, like, both of my parents from Midwest, Chicago and Pittsburgh. And so though I am a native, you know, a lot of people say when they encounter me, I don't come off as, you know what I'm saying, like a native. And so I don't know if that's just the culture that I have experienced, but yeah, I always wanted to get, like, it's a vibe. It's not just getting your hair done. It's like, it's everything. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't intentional. It was just like, I want to create a space that I want to be in. Yeah. You know, I always say that if I didn't open like a hair salon, like, I would do something else in the arts, you know, because I just love just giving experiences.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. Now the salon is thriving. What was your next push? Because I feel like there's been so many, like, there's been real levels. It was like, okay, the level to actually call and change the law, and then to actually open, and then build a team and build a huge salon. What do you feel like God pushed you to do next after that?
The next push for sure was teaching, but before teaching, something pivotal happened that pushed me into it. And so what happened was I ended up officially doing my first photo shoot. And at that time I was traveling to industry conventions, or, you know, Talia Wajid's show, and that brought like a collective of hairstylists from across the nation, which I'll have to definitely stop and say, like, stylists definitely need to put themselves in position, you know, to network and to build community. And from that, I got to give a shout out to Tando Kafele. He was like, you need to work with Keston. You need to work with Keston, you know? And I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? And so I decided to do this professional photo shoot. And at that time, I had been in business 6 years. And I hadn't really done like an official photo shoot. And so I reached out to this photographer out of New York. Now, I always tell people I could have worked with anybody. Yeah. You know how many photographers, there's as many photographers as there is stylists, you know? But because of this recommendation, and because it came highly from somebody else in the industry, I was like, okay, well, let me just, you know, reach out to him. And so I reached out to him, and he told me what his rates were. And I'm like, dang, I got to fly him all the way to Phoenix, you know? And I got to do this photo shoot and, you know, whatever, all the investment in that. But I was just like, I'm just going to try. I've always been a person that was like, I just need to try. I don't want to make anything true negative without even trying it.
Yeah.
Right. And so he flies out here. We do this shoot. I end up doing my signature style. And I didn't know that it would land in Essence, but he ended up, I think he called me before the World Natural Hair Show and was like, hey, you got an Essence. And I'm just like, he said it so casually. I'm just like, okay, I don't even know what that means. So then I see him later on at the show and, you know, he pretty much reiterates it. And then the issue came out not even like a month or 2 months later, which was so crazy because
it had to be summertime.
Yeah, it was summertime.
Yeah.
But we did the shoot in January.
Yeah.
And I remember like the whole purpose was to get published. Never did I really think it would ever get an Essence, you know. But it got an Essence before it got into the hair magazines that I initially purposed to do the shoot for. So
what was it?
crazy.
Black Hair Sophisticates? That was like
Black Hair Sophisticates,
oh my gosh, that was top tier.
So I got
goodness.
plenty features in there.
Yeah.
Plenty and 2 features in Essence magazine. So I was in the July issue of Essence with inserts, you know, covering the salon and everything. And then later that year, which I don't even think they even have done this since that time, they did a hot hair edition.
Wow.
And Essence. And on that hot hair edition, my hairstyle was on the cover. And I just was like,
I know.
Okay,
oh my
Lord.
gosh.
Like, what are you doing here?
Side note, what was really crazy is I went back home to Chicago to visit my family. My auntie had the magazine on her coffee table. And she was like, girl, did you see this? I'm like, I know who did that. What are you doing? Like, I didn't even know. And it was right. I had literally just come back to the salon. And so I was like, oh my goodness, Essence is really in Essence. And my family is telling me about you. I'm like, I work there. I love this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So because this is, you know, right around the time the Instagram just got started.
Yeah.
You know, my hairstyle is the first time going viral.
Yeah.
You know, viral wasn't even a word. It wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
But this is like going everywhere.
Talk
it's
about
proliferating.
worldwide.
Not only is it all over the internet.
Yeah.
It's on people's business cards. It's on their flyers. It's on their billboards.
It's on their actual storefront building.
It whatever. I said, well, praise God.
My goodness. Literally, y'all, we would go anywhere we went. We went to Paris and the style was on somebody's like wall for their salon in Paris. Our clients be flying all over the world, be like, oh my gosh, I saw your style in Ghana. I saw your style in Australia. Like, no matter where they went, it's insane. We even had clients, God rest her soul, one of our clients who she's passed now, you remember Kali? Yeah. So she would go she was driving by and she saw your style on somebody's salon thing. And she said, I sure did pull up and be like, you need to take that down. That is not. We had writers, okay? Writers. This style was everywhere.
It was everywhere.
Everywhere.
But let me speak to that because I can say initially I was mad.
Really?
I was heated. I just was like, oh my gosh, my hairstyle has blown up.
Yeah.
And there's no watermark.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who's done this mysterious bomb style.
Yeah.
And here I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
They can't connect the work with the person who created it. And so it took a while for me to like change my perspective on that because, you know, I just wanted to be recognized as a person who, now mind you, yes, I got my recognition in Essence, but now we're talking about people are putting it on their flyers and business cards as if they have done it or as if they can
do it.
Exactly. Let me just say this. The model herself was in another country and she said she walked in and they tried to tell her that they actually did that style and she was like, I'm the model. And like I'm the one, like that's me.
Wow.
So I think that's where I kind of found like this issue because I'm just like, dang, you know, I want to be able to be known as a person who created this hairstyle. And so then I started to shift my thinking on it.
Yeah.
Because you can't change what happened. And as a matter of fact, I think why people want that, not just for the credit, but also because they want to control it.
Yeah.
But if I would have been able to control it,
it wouldn't have gone.
It would not have been able to proliferate.
Yeah.
I would rather be able to say my hairstyle was here, 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 and here.
Yeah.
And be able to be like, I'm grateful for that. Yeah. And so what I realized I had to do was to catch up to the celebrity of my hairstyle by continuing to do my work, to continuing to produce, continuing to contribute to this industry. And, you know, again, that was right at the rise of, say, Instagram. So it was like, okay, now I need to let people know I'm the one that did it. You know what I'm saying? Here are the other angles of the shot here, you know, and I just had to continue to grind to catch up to that.
Yeah. So then your viral style happens. Mm-hmm. Then what was the catalyst that says, I need to teach?
Okay.
Or I remember the conversation, but I really want you to share, like, what even got you there? Oh,
well, you can tell me the conversation, but I never wanted to teach.
Yeah.
I didn't want to teach, not because I didn't want to share. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to teach because I didn't know if I could teach.
Yeah.
And I think there's two different things of being a really great anything, whether it's a stylist or whatever, and now being able to communicate the how-to of that to somebody else so they can get it. And so for me, it was like the people who are calling the salon because they've now seen this Hairstyle in Essence magazine, they're in Jersey, they're in New York, they're not in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so if they are going to come and learn, they got to catch a flight. Yeah. They got to get a hotel room. They may have to get a car. So they're making an investment. Yeah. Plus, they got to pay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can give them what they have invested. And I was so concerned with that idea, like to the point where it almost paralyzed me. And then it got so overwhelming that I realized, like, okay, I gotta step out.
Yeah.
I had to step out. And so, you know, I was already teaching the stylists in the salon, and you know they were learning, but it was another thing for somebody from the outside to come in. And so I did the first class. But what do you remember?
I remember when we had opened Tempe, and we had a client who is now family, and she was like, she had a dream, and she wrote down all of these things. And I remember you like mentioning it, but it wasn't like I'm about to do this. It was like, I'm petrified. And it just ended up being, you had a client, but you had like just finished your client. And she was in my chair and I'm doing her hair. And then she just started going off and you're like, what in the world? Who told you, basically? And you knew it was God. Like, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Yes, I knew it was God because this is a conversation I already was wrestling with. This is a conversation I was already having. And not only that particular day was very just important in that I woke up that morning and I said yes. Yeah. And there's a time and a place where God is calling you to a new mountain, to a new adventure, and you may not feel like you're adequate, or you may not feel like you have what it takes. Mm-hmm. And so all it really takes is your yes. Yeah. And so I woke up that morning. I can't tell you the impression I experienced or what I felt, but I just knew that I had to say yes. So I said yes. Then later on that day, now this is private. This is within myself. Yeah. Later on this day, this lady, she comes and she confirms my yes, like it's exactly what he's saying. Yeah. And I was just like, girl, I could throw my shoe.
Yes. It was like, you were like, I never really see you super shocked, but it was like what in the world? It was a direct word that was in absolute alignment, pure confirmation. But I saw something that day that I'm like, you didn't just take the word, you started doing it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, I heard a yes. I mean, I got confirmation. No, you actually started moving, and you didn't move with knowing everything to do. You just started.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was huge for me, but for you, like, what did it mean to you to actually just start something that was brand spanking new? The work that you did wasn't brand new, but like this role as an educator, that was brand new.
Yeah, because I think the thing is sometimes we can get caught up in titles. Yeah. And so if we see ourselves as just a hairstylist or just this, then it's hard for us to accept the new quote unquote title or the new role. The good thing was that along with my father being an entrepreneur, he was very prophetic. Yeah. He told me that I was going to have a school before I had a salon.
Yeah.
So he saw this stuff. I mean, light years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going off of what my father already knows and sees. I'm going off the word that God has already confirmed.
Yeah.
And because I already have history with God and I've seen him be faithful with all of these other instructions.
Why is this making me cry? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It's okay. I see him be faithful with all these other instructions. I don't care how afraid I am. I have to go.
Yeah.
I can't say no. And I think the other part is if I stay here, I will be stuck here because there's no room for me to grow here. It's either like I'm going to grow by stepping out and doing something new, or I'm going to go in circles. And I just refuse to go in circles. And there comes a point in time where you get frustrated with where you're at. And I believe the frustration is because we're called to greater, but greater also is going to require something new out of you, something where you didn't think that you could do it, but that supernatural power helps you to do it. And so I did it afraid.
Yeah. And it is super scary.
Yeah.
It is. I think part of the thing that like made me super emotional, and I've told you this many times, but like knowing that you had your dad to speak those words over your life, it really matters. Mm-hmm. Like it really, really matters what you speak to the people that you love. Now as a parent, I'm like, I know my words really matter for my children because I literally see you as the result of words your father intentionally said and intentionally wrote down and left you in this world. Like it's just, it literally blows my mind. Like, you know, I love your parents.
And you know, I didn't realize how blessed I was. I didn't know that wasn't necessarily normal. You know, my father, like again, he just was. I recorded him. Man. I used to record him because he used to hype me so much, and it wasn't something that he was just like lying to me. He's like, I see you. I'm not just your father. I know you in the spirit. Yeah. And I'm going to speak to that. And so,
that's huge.
You know, I literally went back and was listening to his stuff a couple days ago because like, dang, I wish I could hear his words, but I have them, you know? And so, God bless me with both of my parents. And so, so my mom's seeing all this elevation, right? So I don't know what going back to that one question, was over time, she just seen it. It was like, okay, dang, now she's super proud. It was like, girl.
Yeah. But okay, so then I'll digress for a second. Yeah. Even with her being super proud, you know, what can you explain, like, what were some of those moments where you felt like, okay, I know that my parents love me, but if I share certain things, I might not do what God said, or I might not, I might feel more led to be their child instead of be his child at the end of the day. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to learn how to, if the right word is mitigate, like who I could tell what and when.
Yeah.
And so I know that my father has the gift of faith. Yeah. If anything, I'm not telling him, he's telling me what I need to be doing. Whereas I knew that with my mom, I had to tell her after. I had to tell her because I knew that
that is a whole word.
Her thoughts could potentially not contaminate me in the sense that, you know what I'm saying, but just make me doubt or to second guess what I know I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And so as much as I love my mother and as much as supportive as she was, I had to mitigate that. It was like, even when I bought my house, I just like, I could not tell her. I told her when I got the keys. And this is a 2-3 month
She's
process.
telling the truth. I remember.
I was like, oh, mommy, come meet me at this address. And she's like, what's going on? You know, and I had the keys and I was moving in. But I had to learn how to protect my seed of faith.
Can you say that again?
I had to learn how to protect my seed of faith. If God gives me a seed, it's the wisdom in me to know who I can tell what and when. Yeah. And so, you know, I dearly love my mom, dearly. But that was something I had to learn. It was just like, oh, I can't tell her until after. And I don't want her to feel left out. But I just know that I may not even do it if I bring her in on this conversation at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy. Like I always tell you, just how you've lived your life, it's literally like changed the trajectory of how I handle things, because that taught me so much. Like, oh, I can't tell even the people that I love and I know love me, I can't tell them every single thing that I'm doing all the time because it could disrupt my peace with what I know God said. And if I move outside of that, then I'm moving in fear. It's literally not black. It's not a gray area. It is or it's not. And I'm moving in fear if I'm not moving in peace.
Yeah.
And that has that's helped encourage me to make so many more decisions just because now I watched you literally do it. It's like, no, I love them. I value what they have to say after I do what God tells me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
for
that.
sure.
I love it. Okay, so we'll get back on track.
You good?
And I'm done crying, I promise. So now you have your word. You know you're supposed to start the school.
Yeah.
What is Rare Essence Academy like? What does it look like in its inception?
In its inception, it was more so like, okay, I'm just going to advertise and teach some classes. And if anybody's interested, they'll come. And so I had like my very first class.
Yeah.
Was at the Tempe location.
Yeah.
So after
one person,
after that location opened, it was one lady who actually was in Phoenix. So that felt like less pressure. It was like, okay, she's not catching a flight. She, and she was so eager to learn. And I think that God does this in that he'll give you grace in that whenever he's not necessarily testing, but preparing you, he'll send the right person to get you started.
Yeah.
And so I had her and I had 2 friends be there as like support.
Yeah.
And I taught that lady for 2 days and she just was so grateful and it built confidence in me. And I always tell people like, you get confident as you do it.
Yeah.
And so though I may not have had the confidence and I'm overcoming this fear of even doing it, this lady was just like an angel in that she was just a great person to teach.
Yeah.
And
it changed the trajectory of her life, but it also changed the trajectory of the industry. Like, there was no other schools that we knew of in that way, like that did it the way that you did it. Where we traveled, where we, where it's just like a traveling hands.
Yeah, there were definitely people teaching. Shout out to Lewa G, because I had went to her class early, like, I don't even know, 04, 05, somewhere in there. I had went to Atlanta to do a 2-day class with her, but in the way in which we were going to do it. And initially it was going to be like a local school, but because there were so many inquiries from people all over the world, because now the brand is growing beyond the borders of Arizona, beyond the borders of even the States, because we have social media now, that there was just this demand. Yeah. And so because of that, now it's just like, okay, we have to do something online. And that was what really changed the game, in that we did something online. And we're talking 2015, 2014, 2015-ish.
Yeah, it was crazy. I always tell people, like, Essence would throw me in the water. So anything that I feel like I've assumed any position now, it's because I'm like, you just threw me in the water. And now I believe in it so much because I've been able to see every phase of it. And it's been amazing. Okay, so you started Rare Essence Academy, and that's been in effect for, it's been like it's been longer than 9 years.
No, I don't even know how many years.
It's been 9 years.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years because it's 2024. Oh my gosh, yeah, that still blows my mind. So after operating the academy and everything, like what did you feel God shifted you into next? And it wasn't like this done type thing. These are like continuous roles. It's not like we are severing every single thing along the way. Right.
It was just graduating and allowing a new gift to be expressed. So it was like from hairstyling to leadership, from leadership to education and teaching, from education and teaching to empowering and speaking. And so there came a point in time where, we were even in these classes and I'm just like, Adelaide, I don't like where I'm doing 90% of the class. And, obviously you're there and you're doing, you're there in a supportive role, but then it switched where you're doing 90% of the class and I'm more of the supportive role because it was like God was transitioning me into a new place. And so that place again is just speaking, empowering, and obviously coaching as well. And that was a major leap. That was another major leap. I was like, God, like, okay, like I understand we're supposed to elevate and graduate, but can I catch my breath?
Yeah.
You know? And so I was, well, let me go back. So 2020, because this is really when it kind of happened.
Yeah.
The pandemic is going on. Everybody's online and mainly on social media. Everybody's going live. Anybody who got a phone, they going live.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go live and I'm going to talk to the audience, you know, or the followers of Rare Essence Academy. And I'm going to do it for 30 days. So when I went online, I never told anybody I was going to do it for 30 days. I just told myself that I'm just going to challenge myself to do it. And I told myself I was going to do hair. I don't even know where that came from because I retired from the chair in 2017.
Yep.
So, and I have to say this, when it was time for me to leave those roles, I literally was feeling this frustration, like this agitation, like it's time for me to go. I don't even know exactly where. Yeah. And so, I hadn't been doing hair, but I told myself I'm going to do hair. And so I went live for the first day and I think I was teaching like precision parting. And then at the end of the live, like I noticed that there was a pool and I didn't necessarily understand what was going on. But I mean, day 2, day 3, and I got my Bible out and I'm speaking and I'm not speaking about hair. And I'm like, what is happening here? Yeah. Because this is not why I'm here. I'm like, God, I'm over here. I'm trying to get sales. I am trying to get sales for the academy and he's trying to get souls.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like a setup. Like, okay, I'm going to have you go live. You think it's for this, but there's a deeper need. This is the pandemic.
Yeah.
People have a deeper need that they may not even be aware of. And I'm going to use you. And so from there, after that 30 days, I was like, what just happened? Yeah. What just happened? But again,
woke something up.
This wasn't anything that I wasn't aware of. Yeah. It was just something that I didn't understand. My father told me, he said, God is going to go from using your hands to using your vocal cords. Almost a decade ago. Yeah. He knew these things. And so I was aware, but I still didn't grasp it until that happened. Because I always used to say like, well, what am I going to talk about? You know, I can share my story. Yeah, I could talk about entrepreneurship, business, but that wasn't deep enough for me to feel passionate about. And so for me, where I'm at now is truly helping people believe in themselves because you cannot go beyond your belief of yourself and what you can accomplish. If all of the areas where God took me, I believed in him and I believed his word, but I also had to believe that I had the ability. Yeah. And I realized that so many people, they hold themselves back because they don't believe that they have it. They don't believe they have the ability, but it's like you don't know what's in you until you start walking in that direction. Yeah.
It's literal faith. Like,
you couldn't have told me you could have told me I was going to change your law. You couldn't have told me I would be in essence of my hairstyle would be all over the world. Like these things happened because God started to stir something up in me. Yeah. And then I realized like, oh snap, I did do that. Yeah. So it's like, what can you do that you're not even aware of because you don't even see yourself the way that you need to see yourself? Yeah.
And if you don't, what's causing you not to see yourself?
What's hindering it? What's blocking it?
Always my question is like, what's on the other side?
Right.
Always.
You like, I'm the belief coach, you the authenticity coach, and these two paired together, it's just like dynamite because the connection to whatever a person is called to do and even the iterations of it and the, you know, it's all going to be based off that belief and you being authentic to yourself. And some of that authenticity is, this is not who God called me to be. Yeah. Like nursing was great and it's great for people who are nurses, but that was a pit stop. Yeah. You know, I was thinking the other day, and this kind of goes back to something, but I didn't put this together until I just recently did an interview, but me going to Maryland was so serendipitous. I don't know if that's the right word, but I like it. Because I had to go to Maryland. Yeah. Because in Maryland, you didn't have to have a license, which opened up the idea. So now when I come back to Phoenix, I have a different experience to know that something can be changed. Yeah. And so why it is, I thought that I went out there on my own, but it was still part of God's plan and still part of his path. And I was like,
it's so beautiful when you're able to like finally connect, like, oh, that's what you was doing, God.
Right. It all makes sense. And I got to give a shout out to Pamela Farrell because she was the one who got the law changed initially. And in Maryland.
Oh, wow.
So that law got changed in 96 in
Wow.
Maryland. And it was the Institute for Justice who did that case. I didn't put all that together. So now when I come back, I don't even know the connection. And look where we at. Look where we at. So, man, like I said, I just see so much for people. And I think that we have these limited perspectives of ourselves and what we're able to achieve. And that, it hurts me. And I'm a brand strategist. I feel like I see something in the person and I'm like, I can see how that could be packaged and presented and could really profit and be a blessing to other people. And so it's like, I see when people are just like, they don't believe and they don't necessarily know how to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's just, the phase. Like, yes, I'm doing the speaking. Yes, I'm doing my own personal coaching on a purpose side. And then we're doing the coaching on the business side for stylists. But yeah, I mean, it's all of that. And who knows what the next iteration is going to be, But
it's being a good steward of what you're supposed to be doing right now, that God could even trust you to do the thing later.
Yeah.
I think that's what we've been learning this whole time. It's not that he's not going to allow us to do the things that bring us joy and show him to be even bigger. But it's, can I trust you there? And now he's like giving us a small extra foot to be like, oh, we can do this one extra thing or these two extra things. But it's because we were good stewards before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we'll get to do all the things that we get to do at some point. But for now, we're all in.
Yeah.
I love that.
Agreed. And I also go off, like, we talk about letting peace be your compass, but I also go off of like, whatever I'm excited. Like, if I'm excited, you can't stop me from doing anything when I'm excited.
It's the running horse emoji. Essence is the running horse emoji when she is like in it 100%.
It's horsepower over here. Okay, I'll be ready to go.
It's in my phone.
Whether it's a running emoji or a horse emoji, it's like, let's go.
Yes, it's a spread.
Yeah, and so that passion, I think that people have to also understand. It's like, oh, what could I do? I don't care if I get paid for this.
Right.
I will coach people. Just because I'm just like, I see you and you ain't even got to pay me. I'm gonna just coach you. Yeah. But that's where I know, like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And there's that peace there and there's that grace.
And there's joy. There's actual joy. And I mean, I know it's probably a whole nother episode we can talk about. But it's just like, oh, if the grace lifted from that season and you're getting called into another one, why would you want to stay where you don't have no grace? Why would you want to keep doing what God has called you to essentially move out of? Not that you couldn't do it still, but it's like you don't have the joy and the passion and the love to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, where's the joy? Where's the joy at?
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
And I think that there's joy that you have now that I couldn't have seen for a long time because there was things that God had to work out. But it's like seeing it again, seeing you like willing to be like, girl, I didn't sleep because I'm so excited. Or I'm like, what? I'm not sleeping because I just had a baby, but you're not sleeping because you had another baby. There's a baby in there too. And the spirit is trying to come out and you're not sleeping for it. And I love being able to see that because I'm like, okay, she got it again. And not that it was bad when you didn't have that, but you knew what you had to do. You knew you had to do the work there to be able to have this fruit. Right.
It was the work and also just the timing of God in terms of, seasons of life, which I definitely want to talk about that at another time. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for this podcast. Yeah. Obviously, that's a part of speaking and empowering people. And so, this is where we at.
Yeah. Well, I hope y'all learned something today.
For sure.
I didn't mean to be crying, but I think we got some. You got some good nuggets in there. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, y'all.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Hey, Rare Stylists, if you are looking to grow in business and you know you need help, we want to help you. Log on to rareessenceacademy.com/coaching if you are ready and serious about growing in business.